I was born August 6, 1939, and I was born in a place called Stepan, Poland. It was Poland in 1939 and then got carved up and became part of the Ukraine. My name used to be Zelda Kamieniecki, and in Poland and so forth during the war, and survived by being hidden in the forest with my mother and others. And then after the war, went west, as a lot of people did, and ended up in a DP camp in Germany in a place called Neu-Ulm. Came to the United States December 23rd, 1949. And that's when my name got changed. I went from Zelda Kamieniecki to Sally Cummins. Don't ask me why, but that's what happened. We ended up in Wisconsin, in Madison, Wisconsin, because you had to be sponsored to be able to come. And there was an organization there, a Jewish community organization, that sponsored us along with other families who had survived and were immigrating to the States.
Why did you want to become a PT? Or how did that?
It came about by accident. Originally, I thought I wanted to be a physician, but there was no way that I could afford it. There was no way that it was going to happen. So then I decided I was going to be a medical technologist. I liked the person who operated the lab in our doctor's office. So I started out in medical technology. I was fortunate to get into a course called microtechnique, where you get samples, you make slides, and I got tired of going to campus in the middle of the night to check on things. And then I thought, I really don't want to do this. I mean, I'd like to do something with people. In one of the classes, I don't remember even whether it was a history or literature or what it was, I sat next to a woman called Donna Kimmel, who was in the physical therapy school. And we started talking, and I thought, well, that sounds like something I might like to do. So then I went to see the director of the physical therapy program, who was Margaret Coley, or Peg Coley, and had to convince her to allow me to transfer, which I convinced her. And that's how I got into physical therapy. It wasn't anything I had thought about, dreamt about. It just seemed to be the right fit.
And was it a career when you look back that you enjoyed?
Yeah. I enjoyed the patient care. I enjoyed the education piece of it. I graduated in '63. I enjoyed the aspect of helping people recover from a disability, from an illness. I enjoyed the education piece of it because it gives you the opportunity to really influence a lot of people. I mean, you're influencing the students that you teach, but then those students go out into the community and they work with, whether it's patients and families and other professionals. And it's just something that I have felt grateful to have sort of found the field by accident. When physical therapy first started at Northwestern, it was called the Department of Physical Therapy. Then it, at some point then, got moved out of the Division of Medicine and got moved into Department of Physical Medicine. And then when I came along, one condition of accepting the position for me was that we had to be moved out of rehab medicine. There was no reason to be a subsidiary of another department, another discipline. Henry Betts, who was the medical director, I don't remember if he was the CEO as well or not, of RIC, was the chairman of rehab medicine. And we worked well together, and he didn't really fight it. I mean, he never really did anything. You know, Woody did all the work, and he would sign papers, and I just didn't think that was right. So when we came out of rehab medicine, we then became titled as Programs in Physical Therapy.
How did you navigate the medical school, which I'm thinking at the time in the beginning was male-dominated or mostly a male environment, and you were a program director, and what was it like during that time in the 70s and 80s? How did you navigate that work?
Persistence. Never turned down a good challenge. There were not very many women. I just did it. I mean, I really don't know how, or I will tell you, during that time, I was also very active in our professional association, both at the state level. I had been active in the local, and then I was serving on board of directors of the American Physical Therapy Association. And at some social function, a gentleman who should remain nameless came up to talk, and he was the director of another school elsewhere, and wanted to know. He said, I need to ask you something. I said, go ahead. What is it you want to ask? And he said, I understand you're married. And I said, yes. And then he said, well, and I understand, I know you run the program at Northwestern. I said, yes. And you're on the board. Yes. And you're doing some stuff with this world organization. I said, yes. I said, I don't understand you, though. What's your question? What is it you want to ask? And I said, the board is made up of men and women. Some of us are married, some are not. Some have children, some don't. So why are you asking me this? And he looked at me and he said, well, but they have a wife at home. And I said, well, guess what? Do you think you could get me one? And we talked, and, he did not mean to be insulting or negative. He just really could not grasp the idea that you could be female, you could be male and do multiple things. But to be female and do it didn't make any sense to him. I don't know. I juggled. I think I've told a lot of people that I've always felt like I'm juggling 10 balls up in the air or 10 oranges, and if one falls, you pick it up and you just keep going. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to create an environment that would allow others, whether it be in teaching or research, but would allow others to contribute and do their best work and most meaningful work, to create an environment in terms of resources, in terms of facilities, in terms of relationships. And I knew that if that was to be my primary objective, my primary goal, that meant that if I had ambitions to be a great researcher, which I didn't, but if I had ambitions for a certain area of my own, that had to take second place. My main concern was creating a place where others could do their best work. And looking back in the number of quality faculty that we've had over the years that are in very, very different positions. They're leaders in educational programs. They are leaders in research. And looking at where our graduates have gone, I think I was able to accomplish most of it. Over the years, we've had a lot of firsts. Randy Perkins was an anatomist and was in 1975, 74, 75. He used to teach. He was in the department. It was then called Anatomy and Physiology. And he used to teach anatomy to our students. And he was great at it. And teaching was really his first love. So more negotiations, more discussions, ended up hiring Randy away from anatomy as a full-time faculty member in our department, in our program. Many in the physical therapy community thought that was heresy. How in the world, why would you hire a non-physical therapist to a physical therapy program? I mean, they really didn't get it and didn't understand. Well, now it's no big deal. Now every department has bioengineers, has anatomists, has cell biologists, but it was kind of the first thing when we did it. It turns out when I go through the old records that Northwestern was the first to have developed an organized alumni association. They were the first to have students attend national meetings. But when those students in the 30s attended a local meeting, they had to pay 25 cents to, I don't know whether it was for the chair to sit in or to get in. I don't know, I'm not sure. In 91, we had a student conclave. At a national level, they had tried bringing students together, and they did okay, but they weren't too terribly successful. So I thought, well, let's give it a try. So we organized, and the students were great in terms of helping with the organization, and the chapter gave us some support. So we organized a student conclave, I think it was the fall of 91. We ended up attracting over 600 students from 27 states and 58 different schools. Way, way more than we had anticipated. Having to go back to hotels, trying to get more space. Board members were there. It was great. It was a wonderful opportunity. It was so great that the APTA decided to take it over again. So it was very successful. The American Physiotherapy Association had developed some standards, and in 1928 they accredited us, and it was either 6 or 7 other programs. We're the only one that is still around and has been consistently accredited since then. And then in the 30s, the American Physiotherapy Association asked the AMA to help them with developing some more standards and things that could be applied to multiple schools. And that's when, after that happened, then the AMA took over the accreditation process. And that became a battle, shall we say, when the board decided, the House of Delegates of the board decided in the 70s, later in the 70s, to seek recognition as an independent accreditation agency. And it finally came to be, but that was a tough one. The biggest opponents were, of course, the AMA and the AHA, the American Hospital Association. But we got it. I think the department will continue to grow. I think its major growth is going to be in the direction of research. And hopefully research that has an impact on the clinical services that are delivered. What works, what doesn't work, what should we stop doing just because it's always been done that way. I think it will go in the direction of more post-professional education and more combined degrees, which there are several now, and that can be a good thing. My hope is that we don't lose track of the clinical aspect of physical therapy and the hands-on delivery of services. My hope is that continues to be a strong component of Northwestern's program, of any PT program, but certainly Northwestern's program.
Any advice to these students, to these students and the class behind them? Any advice to DPT students?
You have to get involved if you want to make any changes. Find something in your work that you're really passionate about. Represent the profession in your community. You're the best PR, the best advocate. Give back. Be persistent. Fight the good fight.